Well, hello and welcome to my mobile office. I just have a little bit of spare time and I wanted to share some thoughts on the way I think that most people are actually traumatized and why we really should try to go easy on each other. Um, so by the way, this channel is a bunch of random, it's sort of like an experimentation channel, really. Um, Especially at this point in my life, I don't really have a lot of extra time really to devote towards doing what you need to do to make a channel successful. This is really just creative expression. Um, Over the history, I've done a lot of different things. At this point, it's mostly just sharing my perspective on things for those who are interested in listening to it. um, anyway, so YouTube, this channel is not monetized. It probably will never be monetized because sometimes the things that I talk about on my channel, YouTube doesn't like very much. They tell me that from time to time. I'm sorry, I don't really care. I'm still going to just, even if I don't get as many views or whatever because of the things that I talk about, I don't care if YouTube doesn't like it. Sorry. Sorry, YouTube. Thank you for letting me post my videos here still. Um, yeah, so I kind of I come from family lines on both sides where there is a history of like a lot of generational trauma. I think a lot of us are um, traumatized. And so negative behaviors that people have come from a history of trauma. Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, is brilliant. The guy is brilliant. I highly recommend you read it. It's very science heavy. I still have to finish it. I don't know, maybe a year later after starting it. But there's so much good information in there. And really, you can bridge spirituality with the field of psychiatry through that book. I don't know. Bessel van der Kolk does not frame this in any way, shape, or form as a spirituality book. But like when it comes to the form identity or the egoic mind, what I call the meat suit identity, sometimes people don't like that. It's cringy, but I don't know. It works for me. It's describing that very phenomenon. The way he talks about trauma and the way the body responds to trauma and past trauma, and there's this like disconnect between the past traumatic experience and the present, and that's where the shitty behaviors come from. And so there's plenty of it. We see it everywhere. We see it in our family systems. We sometimes, if we have good self-reflection, we'll see it in ourselves. Ideally, that's really what everyone should strive for, is authentically looking at ourselves and saying, "Ooh, yeah, when I did that, that was kind of lame." So when we hurt each other and when we do shitty things, it's a result of some disconnect between a past traumatic situation. I think sometimes, but probably more rarely, shitty behavior comes from really just not realizing what you did and not having any connection to any kind of trauma. But I think typically it is because so the issue is identification with the meat suit identity. And this is a process that takes effort for the vast majority of people. Learning, so when we have this stimuli that triggers some sort of emotional reaction in us, learning in that moment, because that's the hardest thing to do in that moment, to see, okay, that's the meat suit, that's some past trauma. So really this is where atheists don't jive with what I'm talking about, because atheists believe that this is it. This is a very Newtonian kind of experience, and the idea of us being a spiritual being beyond this experience is not a part of their paradigm. If anyone wants to correct me, I'm more than willing to hear it. But I'm pretty sure that's what atheists believe. And so with that being said, they are the meat suit. They are this temporary physical experience, and once it's over, it's over. I don't believe that's the case. I believe that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so these experiences are temporary. This is not our only ride in the physical. And so what's beyond that physical experience then? If we're not actually the meat suit, the physical experience, we're just in it, then who's the real us? And so that's really what we could start looking at when it comes to, so I do love a lot of the Jesus teachings. The zealots get on my nerves a little bit. I'm not against people being a part of the Christian faith. I think that that can be a really beautiful thing. But I think the literalist zealots that's not my jam. Okay. No offense to anyone. But the teachings of Jesus are really beautiful. And so the idea of forgiveness, forgive them for they know not what they do. Oh, I was in New Mexico. You guys, insert random side note thing here. Carlsbad Caverns. I bought this sweatshirt 760 feet below the surface of the earth. I went with my kids. I took my kids to New Mexico for a week to visit my mom, and we did a bunch of different things. Meow Wolf is so rad. Check it out if you go to Santa Fe. I drove 4 hours south with my kids, and we stayed at a hotel and went to Carlsbad Caverns. Oh my God. I'm bringing my husband back there, and I'm going to tell everyone I know, go to Carlsbad Caverns if you haven't gotten the chance to. Although I'm going to insert a little warning here. So my kids are all, like my youngest is about to be 7. If you have toddlers or preschoolers who run, and you are constantly like panicking over their physical safety, like I am, if you don't have like a leash for them, I don't know if I'd recommend it, because wow, like you go down and there will just be like, I mean, there's railings on this trail that goes down into this giant cave. But if a child really was feeling squirrely, it wouldn't be hard for them to get through the railings. And there's just random holes into the bottom, into the earth that pop out on the side of the trail. And it's just like, oh my God. So it's super cool. I think everybody should check it out if you get the chance. If you have small children, please think about that warning, because I'm so glad my kids are older, because if I had brought them when they were little, I would have just had a panic attack in there. But it's so cool. Oh my God. It's like being transported into another world. Anyway, New Mexico. When I was in Santa Fe with my kids, we stopped at the Loretto Chapel, and they have these stairs. They're these famous stairs. I bought a rosary there. I don't know, there's something about New Mexico. There's also this chapel in Chimayo, New Mexico, that has this sacred dirt. There's a lot of miracles that have happened through the Christian-based religion in New Mexico. So I have some of that magic dirt, I call it, or the sacred dirt, from the Chimayo Chapel. But I also bought a rosary from this. I'm learning to pray the rosary from this Loretto Chapel. That place, oh my God, so cool. But there's some really beautiful things from this Christian religion that we can utilize. And so I bought a thing to hang in my rearview mirror to remember to be more forgiving with others and myself as well, like to forgive myself for foolishness. So we are all traumatized. I think that the way that this world is set up that we're living in is there's a lot of potential for adverse experiences for us. Really, I think the vast majority of people have had at least one really disturbing experience. Most of us have had many. I really do believe that that's the case. And I think a lot of the time, I think it's so ubiquitous that many of us don't even realize when something was a traumatic experience. For my third baby, well, as a child, there was a lot of traumatic stuff. Like I mentioned, both sides of my family, there's a lot of generational trauma. But for my third baby, I didn't want to have to do a C-section with any of my babies. But he was fully breech. We couldn't get him to turn around. He was so big, and the way the cord was, the obstetrician didn't feel comfortable, because sometimes they can turn him. Didn't feel comfortable doing it. And so the choice was, do you want to try to do a breech delivery? He was a very big baby, huge head. I didn't feel like it would be in his best interest to do that. So I opted for the C-section. And I didn't realize it's actually kind of traumatizing, like the way that you hear them cutting. There are some aspects of having a C-section that you don't know until you go through it. And having had 2 prior vaginal deliveries for my other 2 babies, like I was able to see the difference. And even though you have a longer labor, the labor, you go through the whole process with the vaginal deliveries. Sorry for saying vaginal, everyone. It's still not as difficult, I believe, as a C-section. I actually feel like it's kind of a trauma. So as we go through life, there's a lot of these little traumas that continue to happen. And so because just to kind of sum it up, because I got to go do some more things, but I wanted to share this idea that we should be more forgiving because trauma is everywhere and trauma is sometimes hard to see in others. Um, and really, that's the gist of it. Learning to bring that into our awareness. I had a situation today where I had to do an order from somewhere and somebody really goofed it up, and I was busy and I was stressed and I was trying to do a million things at once, and I kind of started to get kind of like "Ugh." But then I brought that forgiveness in. Okay, I don't know what he's going through, that person. Maybe there's something hard that he's dealing with that I'm not aware of or has dealt with in the past. So do you see how, like, when we bring this idea of most people are traumatized, we don't know their story, bring that forgiveness in. It's not to say don't have boundaries. It's not to say, don't keep yourself or the people around you safe from any kind of harm. It's a softening of your energy, saying, I'm going to choose to consider that I don't understand the full situation. Think about how amazing the world will be. I say will because I do think that that's where we're headed. I have a optimistic view on the future. If that's how we start to operate, you know, that really taking that forgive them for they know not what they do as a mantra, as like a spiritual practice. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an awesome day. Bye for now.